heck of a ranch.
The thrilling sport of sky running can be dated back to the early 1900s, when Italian mountain climbers pioneered races up the chilling Alps of Mont Blanc. The sport comprises a number of different disciplines, from the short, steep, vertical kilometre to the more popular sky race and sky marathon. Ultra sky marathons are becoming increasingly popular, and a fine example of this is Australia's own Buffalo Stampede. The Buffalo Stampede is located in the small Victorian town of Bright. Bright is home to one of Australia's highest mountains, Mount Buffalo, which reaches heights of 5,653 feet, making it the ideal place for a sky running event. The race pushes competitors to their limits, going up and down some of Australia's steepest slopes on loose terrain. When Matt Murphy entered the event this year, he decided to share the hurt by entering his wife Elise into her first challenge since childbirth. Let's see if Matt and Elise can conquer Mount Buffalo in the Buffalo Stampede Sky Running event.
At the start of this year, Elise and I were blessed with the birth of our son Jack. As wonderful as it's been, it's made training extremely difficult, especially for Elise.
I think the first few months I just didn't even worry about training. Now that he's nearly 6 months, it's getting a little bit easier. He's happy and healthy, and that's the priority, but I am getting a little bit more time now to try to get back into it.
Not being able to train has been extremely tough on Elise. The late nights, mixed with looking after Jack, has been extremely time-consuming, although she wouldn't give up the experience of being a parent for anything.
My goal is to get through being away from him for 4 days and not lose my mind. I haven't been away from him before, so I think I'm going to find that harder than the actual race. Yeah, my baby.
With the Buffalo Stampede coming up, I thought what better way to get it back in shape than with a sky running marathon.
Honestly, my aim for this event is not to get pulled off course because of the cut-off time limit. Matt keeps telling me that I'm going to find this harder than childbirth.
So we've come down to Twin Bay Stairs. We've got a few weeks until the race, and I guess the objective now is that every weekend we come down with Jack and I guess just make sure that we really put a fair bit of hurt on the muscles that are going to be required during the event. And obviously we've got a few of the other boys here that are doing it, so we just swap off with the pram, do a bunch of stair repeats, do a bunch of hills for about 45-50 minutes non-stop. So we do a 9K warm-up, 45-50 minutes of stairs, and then about a 9 or 10K cool down. Elise does a fair bit of it with the pram for the warm-up and cool down, but it's all, I guess, just specific for...
Lots of hills.
Lots of hills. Getting ready so it doesn't hurt quite as much, eh? And Jack doesn't mind it.
Luckily, he loves the pram.
With the Buffalo Stampede being a sky running event, it's crucial to make sure that you condition the legs with a hell of a lot of hills. Using stairs and small hills is the closest that we can get to the mountainous terrain that the Buffalo Stampede has to offer. Having Jack with us out training is awesome. Not only do we get to hang out together as a family, but it's also a little bit of extra weight and resistance going up those stairs or hills.
It's like he's part of the team. It's pretty hard to stay always motivated when you're not getting sleep, when you've got to get up early in the morning to get the Ks in before work or after work. Jack's got bath time, etc. So what she's done She'll probably get through it, but I think she's going to hurt a hell of a lot.
When we return, Matt and Elise head to the beautiful alpine mountains of Bright, Victoria, where they'll be going through all the ups and downs the Buffalo Stampede has to offer.
We arrived in Bright, the home of the Buffalo Stampede Skyrunning Marathon. It's great to be back in the beautiful scenery that Bright has to offer. Mount Buffalo is one of Australia's highest mountains, at 5,653 feet above sea level. This event is going to be one to remember. While in Bright, we were staying in an old cottage just around the corner from the start line.
So it's race day morning, about an hour until I've got to walk down to marshalling. I woke up with a cold 2 days ago, so I'm just congested and sore throat and headache and all that sort of stuff. So I'm dosed up on some cold and flu tablets and we'll see how we go.
With Elise being so nervous, I took the time to go through a race pack one more time just to make sure she had everything. All right, so you've got your tailwind in your little bottles on the side. So there's 300 calories in each one. Then you got your water in the main pack. So you got to think 300 calories in each one. So you want to think that you want to go through around half of one of these, maybe a full one every hour, plus a gel every hour. And then you'll have your aid stations to fill up with whatever carbohydrate mix they have there. It's so important that you stay on top of your nutrition in an event like this. Making sure that you take enough calories with you to ingest out on course is crucial. We've seen the girls off from home to meet them down at the start line. The atmosphere at the start line was pretty tense. Elise is going to be in for a really tough day.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it begins.
Go.
In an endurance event like this, your pace is crucial. If you go out too quickly, you would simply burn out within the first few hills. Knowing what pace to go out at can be the difference between finishing and being stuck halfway out on course. A good way to determine your pace is thinking if the race is going to take you 6 hours, you still need to have a smile on your face at the 3-hour mark. Then you'll more than likely finish.
Good luck, girls.
You could see the girls ascending their first mountain from the roadside. I could only imagine how their legs were burning. So they're only about 20 minutes into the run, so maybe about 3 kilometres, and they've already hit that. So I guess you could say that's a bit of an omen of things to come. It will be about an hour until we see Elise again, and during that time, she'll be running through beautiful alpine Victoria. After the first few hills that the girls have gone over, they seem to be looking pretty good on the flat ground. For now,
6 hours and 10 minutes. I'm not sure how much more on this climb, but it's hard. It's steeper than anything I've done before.
I was at the halfway checkpoint waiting for Elise. The cut-off time to the checkpoint was getting closer and closer. And I was really starting to get edgy. She was falling so close to the cut-off time. I waited and waited until finally she got there with only minutes to spare. I gave her a quick few words of encouragement before I had to get down to business. Elise was really struggling with large blisters on her feet. Spending a few minutes now to treat those blisters will really pay dividends. With so far still to go, a few minutes now will save a half hour, an hour later on in the race. Yep. The girls had literally seconds to leave the checkpoint. Otherwise, they'd be pulled off the course. So we got Elise taped up and we rushed the girls out as quick as we could without much rest at all. The plan was that we'd meet Elise at the next checkpoint to fill up her pack properly. Being mostly downhill to the next checkpoint, I thought she'd make up a lot of time. However, that wasn't the case. The girls who were running with Elise ran through the checkpoint in a pretty reasonable time.
How far she is? Oh, probably maybe a minute or so behind us. We just, we're on a bit of a roll, so we thought we'd just keep going.
A few more minutes passed and there was still no Elise. With her pacing buddies long gone now, I was starting to get pretty worried.
No, that's not her. Let's go and look for Elise.
I caught up with Elise down the hill from the checkpoint. She was still moving reasonably well. Despite being so close to the cutoff limit, she really wanted to keep going.
Everything is sore, but I don't feel like I need to fall out or anything.
No, just keep moving.
Elise has now been on her feet for around 3.5 hours. The blisters are getting worse and the fatigue starting to set in. The sun was getting lower in the sky and she still had a few hills to go. She's starting to hurt really bad and her pace is suffering. With the cutoff time nipping at her heels, she really needs to hit that final push.
Right, I've got half an hour to do. I think we can make it.
Despite being in a ton of pain and pushing the time limit, she was confident that she'd finish. And still, she had a smile on her face.
I reckon we've only got, really not even half an hour left of any sort of daylight. The sun's starting to set, so I'm cutting it fine, but I think I'll get there.
As I watched more and more people cross the finish line, I couldn't bear to watch the timer tick down any longer. I went out to find Elise to give her a few last words of encouragement.
Let's go.
Elise had just made it. She finished with less than 3 minutes on the clock. But considering that this is her first event since becoming a mother, I'm pretty bloody proud. After putting the body through so much punishment, the cold streams of Bright make for the perfect makeshift ice bath.
It was the worst hills right at the end, and then that last down bit, I don't know about you guys, but my knees felt like they were gonna pop.
It's not often that I get to be a spectator and support friends and family at a race like this. But seeing Elise finish has inspired me for my own race. I was originally going to do the 42-kilometre marathon, but I figured after watching Elise finish, while in Bright, I'll go all or nothing. So it's the 75-kilometre ultra.
After the break, Matt steps it up a notch, attempting to conquer the Buffalo Stampede's 75-kilometre ultra marathon.
Elise and I have come down to Bright to compete in the Buffalo Stampede sky running event. Elise had already finished her 26-kilometre event. Today was the ultra marathon 75-kilometre event. Originally, I entered into the 42-kilometre marathon. However, watching Elise finish her race yesterday inspired me to change my mind and enter into the ultra. I'm feeling fresh and willing to push myself. The atmosphere on the start line was tense, with all the athletes trying to get as warm as possible before undertaking what will probably be one of the toughest days, not only in my life, but in theirs as well.
I guess the nerves definitely just set in like a bit of a bomb dropping, you could say. So we've got 75 Ks, 4,500 metres of climbing.
If I could average 6 kilometres an hour, which is a brisk walk, I'd finish in right around 12 hours, which is a solid time.
3, 2, 1, go!
As soon as we hit the first mountain, the field divided into their pacing groups. I tried to stick mainly with the people that I knew would be around the time that I want to finish in. I'm using poles for this event. Due to that there's so much elevation, you don't want to be leaning over. This will crush your diaphragm and really fatigue the upper body as well.
First climb done, went out pretty easy. Like, yeah, it's almost like you want to go harder, but you really do have to take it super easy so that I've got legs in 70 k's time because we're only 5 k's in.
There's something truly unique about being out in country like this. The air is so clean and the views make the hurt totally worth it. This event would be nowhere near as appealing if it wasn't for the beautiful scenery.
Then when you get to the top, it's all worth it.
I've crested the first mountain and I'm feeling pretty fresh. But for every ascent, there needs to be a descent.
Exactly. There's no zigzagging. All good.
Going down some of the slopes was extremely dangerous, with the tiniest of slips being all it takes to turn you into a human landslide. The importance of keeping your stability and grounding is more important than speed.
7.9k in, 1 hour 25. Well, maybe slightly less, but I'm gonna ease you down and try to get through the next bit unscathed.
There you go, mate.
All right, I'll see you soon, guys.
Good.
I've been out for 2 hours and 40 minutes before I hit the Euroban Creek checkpoint, nestled in a valley at the foot of Mount Buffalo.
We're at 2 hours 40 to down here, so it's 20 minutes slower than last year.
I hit Euroban Creek aid station, which is around 25 kilometres in. I was feeling pretty good, so I didn't want to hang around for too long. Even though I was around 1/3 into the race, I still had to be very conscious of not only my pace, but making sure that my running form was spot on.
Feeling a little bit sore, but not too bad. Just keep on keeping on.
Hearing those cowbells is an awesome motivational push, knowing that you're not too far from an aid station. Everyone is cheering and pushing you on, but it might be a while until I hear those bells again.
So, I reckon about halfway up, maybe slightly under. Things are going okay. Definitely know my legs are there. Got the poles down to try to save me energy for later on, because the trick is, if I get to the top in good shape, it means I can descend in good shape.
At just over 4 hours and 36 kilometres, I've reached the top of Mount Buffalo. The elevation levelled off and I got to a plateau, and we made a 5-kilometre loop around Lake Catani.
Overall, can't complain. Been going for, I don't know, 4.5 hours, so nowhere near halfway yet really, distance-wise, yes, but time-wise, got a long time left on my feet, so every minute that I feel good, I'll take it at the moment.
Coming up, Matt makes the return trip back down Mount Buffalo. But with tired and weary legs, he struggles to stick to the game plan.
Elise and I have come down to Bright to compete in the Buffalo Stampede sky running event. Elise had already finished her 26-kilometre event, and I was almost halfway through my 75-kilometre ultra. I'd come to the technical point in the course, where we had to climb through a cave before we could make our way back to the halfway point.
Just about to go into the cave after one of the climbs. I'll give you a cheeky look. Now we're talking. So that's where we've just come from. Last year, by that time, I could hardly even get down it. I was so blown. So this year's a little bit fresher, but obviously by the time I finish the marathon, I've still got to get all the way back to Bright, so I've got 37 kilometres or something to go, so... Whew.
I'd made it through the cave and finished off the flat run across the plateau. I headed over to the halfway checkpoint. I stopped quickly at the aid station to refuel my supplies.
I'll just keep trying to...
And the fun part began, the descent down Mount Buffalo.
Well, it literally is all downhill from here, mentally. And we've got a 10k downhill, so you're gonna see a different mat by the time I get to the bottom because my quads will be cooked by the time I get down there, and that sucks. But you gotta get down somehow.
40 minutes later, I finished descending Mount Buffalo, and it's straight onto another climb. I'm moving a lot slower and relying heavily on my poles. The fatigue has hit me really hard and fast. I'm praying for a second wind so that I can make it to the finish line. At this stage in the race, I was pretty drained, and I was just trying to hang on to the pace runner in front of me.
It's definitely a different story to when I saw you 3 hours ago.
At this point in time, the mental battle becomes just as hard as the physical battle. Staying mentally positive is the key to keep the legs ticking over.
But in saying that, I think this is the best I could have imagined I'd feel at this point in the race. Been going 8 hours, 10 minutes, starting to get just even a bit sleepy. I think there'll be some tripping over down here. It's pretty steep and the legs are blown. I'd rather just have bloody up the rest of the way. Down hurts too much. Love it. I'll go home and sleep good tonight.
I'm about to make my way down Mystic, easily the most difficult terrain I'll have to face for today. Going downhill was really starting to become dangerous. With every slip and slide on the loose terrain beneath me, extra effort was required just to try to stabilise myself.
Just want to go up. About 7k to go.
I was an absolute mess. Changing to the Ultra may not have been the best idea. The aid station at the bottom of Mystic was the last aid station before the finish line.
All right, how far to go? Thank you very much. Have a good day, guys.
Good work.
Well done.
One last top up of much needed calories and I was on to the home stretch. The cold, crisp mountain air and an extended length of time where my heart rate has been really high, my lungs were really starting to fatigue and I was starting to have some trouble breathing. I was determined to put the breathing situation out of my mind until I crossed the finish line. Finally, in at a time of 9 hours, 56 minutes, I crossed the finish line. I endured a wrestling match with self-doubt whether I'd actually be able to get through the distance. Yesterday, after a Elise race, I made her hop in the extremely cold water to help speed up the recovery process. And Elise was not going to forget that it was my turn today.
He makes us do it yesterday, and look at him. We really need help getting out.
My time here in the beautiful town of Bright had come to an end. The Buffalo Stampede definitely didn't disappoint, being by far one of the hardest events that I've ever had to compete in. And to top it all off, I was able to travel here with Elise and watch her compete as well.
I'm going to be so messed up tomorrow.